Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special series that's going to talk to some of the plank holders and some of the huge supporters of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on its 20th anniversary. So, as many of you may know, March marks the 20th anniversary of the department's creation. And after September 11th, President George W. Bush established DHS by signing the Homeland Security Act of 2002. Since then, the department has certainly expanded. It actually organized 22 agencies under the new department, and since then has made great strides in securing the country. Controversial at times because of politics. Overall, we wanted to really talk to some of the leaders on both our editorial board and in the community about the difference they believe DHS has made in the lives of Americans. So today I'm extremely proud to have with us the former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Elaine Duke. Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's always a great pleasure to have you join us. I think I get to brag about you a little bit because, you know, I'm asking the questions here, but I really believe you're one of the most respected voices in Homeland. And so to kind of have you kick off this commemoration or this celebration of DHS's accomplishment is really an honor for us. You were very involved last year when we commemorated, of course, the anniversary of 9/11. And we recognize now 20 years of DHS, which was kind of the nation's response to 9/11. As a former secretary, we'd love to hear what you think the department's accomplishments are and what good they've done for the nation on their 20th year.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say back at you, because one of the reasons I like to work with Homeland Security today and GTSC is because you're good government like me. I guess people say that a lot, but you care about this country and you report honestly. And I want to thank you for that, because I think there's a need for the American people to have that. I think some of the biggest accomplishments of DHS in its first 20 years is, I would say, one is building and operating at the same time. When DHS came together 20 years ago, I was in TSA, so I came over from Department of Transportation to the Department of Stand-Up from Transportation Security Administration, TSA. And it was not a brand new Chevy convertible when it came off the lot. It was pieces and particles of very old systems, people that hadn't worked together, pieces of a puzzle that didn't match up to each other. There was a lot to do to make it even drivable on the road, if you will. And I am so proud that we drove our mission sets individually, despite not bringing all the tools with us from our legacy agencies or from our newer ones. But then we also continue to improve them to where we are today. More to do? Absolutely. When you look at where DHS is today in terms of how it's looking at its mission set and the changes it's made, and we can discuss some of those, I think it's amazing that we've been able to operate, have no major incident on this country's soil, which means highly effective, and build those pieces into a department that is on its road to maturation. And this is just in spite of a lot of hurdles that DHS has to deal with daily. You mentioned the political volleying, the number of congressional committees that are involved in DHS, the fact that Homeland touches every single person. Every person has an opinion. Should they have a real ID driver's license or should they not? You know, I just have a state. Just little things like that, where I think other departments don't have the level of personal involvement that DHS has, which I personally love, because having the American people care and be involved is amazing, and it does make it a tad more challenging sometimes. I think some of the specific things that I remember in recent years, one is how DHS stepped up to COVID response a role that is way outside its designated mission set. FEMA and all the other components stood up for our country and really played a significant role in COVID. The enterprise response to disasters, the way it's evolved, with FEMA still leading disasters, but the way DHS comes together, especially in a season like 2017, where we had Irma, Harvey, Maria, all back to back, and it really strained the resources. And I think the way we've involved with some of the missions that have kind of evolved over, we've evolved with the evolving mission. For instance, the increase in human trafficking has really caused DHS to put a focus on it. Fentanyl, the increase of fentanyl has really changed the way we have to operate in terms of securing our borders to try to keep that deadly threat out of our country. And it's also driven, and this is another growth area, an increase in partnership with state and local governments that I think is very beneficial to our homeland.
I completely agree. And I was going to say there are two things that the department had that were good and bad at the same time. And that was the 22 agencies that came together all had their individual missions, all had the way they did things. And since the start, that unity of effort theme that's gone through the department for the last 20 years has been incredibly necessary. But as you said, Homeland is everything. Homeland is the transportation, waterways, you name it, and it is really connected to Homeland in some way. So unifying all those missions, it is that backdrop of all hazards. So like you mentioned FEMA, and people think, well, why is FEMA in DHS? Well, if you're looking at all hazards, you're looking at a response to a chemical, biological, natural human attack. Many of the response mechanisms are the same. So we have to kind of keep all of that in mind. So absolutely. So we wanted to keep these kind of short and sweet, but I know having such brains at the table, it just makes me want to talk to you all day. But where do you think that as the department continues to mature, where should it focus its growth and development?
I think there's two main areas. One is DHS headquarters. DHS headquarters is in a unique position of kind of evolving over time in terms of what its roles and responsibilities are vis-a-vis the operating components. And I think that when you look at a sister department, say like DOD, Department of Defense, what OSD does versus Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, versus even the SysComs, it's very clearly delineated. I'm not saying we need to go that far, but I do think there should be some delineation of the policy, governance, and oversight that the department forms and the operating components. So when I speak operating component, I'm talking Coast Guard, TSA, FEMA, ICE, CBP, and Secret Service. I think I left a couple off. But that's really important. And that has to evolve because you can't do both super effectively. And if you're at the secretary level or the deputy secretary, and you're worried about the crisis of the day every day, that growth and maturation, believe it was Covey that talked about the important but not urgent, that we need to focus on more. And I think that's what a better vision for headquarters and its roles and responsibilities would do. I think the second thing we need to do is continue as we've done in recent years with building more cohesive response and capability towards mission sets. So the operating components of DHS will always be autonomous to a degree, as they should be. The mission set of, say, Border Patrol will never be exactly like that of Secret Service or TSA, but there are commonalities that not only lead to efficiencies, but lead to more effective Homeland Security. And let me give you an example. One of them is when a person is going through the immigration system, they have an A file. It's their alien file. Right now, within DHS and across the federal government, so you can throw in DOJ and other agencies, there isn't a link in that movement of that A file. And that is one of the key reasons it slows down the movement of people through the system. this is a policy agnostic solution, because whether you're encouraging people to go through naturalization or you're trying to encourage them not, you still need to move people quickly, humanely, with compassion, and effectively. When people are in, when human beings are in the United States, we owe it to them and to ourselves and our values to know where they are and where their compassions. So what we're trying to do in that case is build a solution across the movement or the journey of someone going through a process that may lead to naturalization or may lead to going back to their home country. What's important about that is it's more secure and it's more effective and it's more efficient, it's cheaper. And it respects the autonomy of what DOJ does, what CBP does, what ICE does. They're different. They're linked, but they're different. And it respects that autonomy while linking and providing a roadmap of visibility and effectiveness. That's just one example. Biometrics is a second one. You know, if we're collecting biometrics, the use of them may be different, but we really need to look across how, while respecting privacy, are we most effective in using those biometrics across a complex set of missions.
Absolutely. Well, and the department is going through the modernization that many agencies are going through right now. So I think you're absolutely right. And certainly DHS has gotten very good at collaboration because it is not a DoD model. And it's more, you know, in the beginning, they hired a lot of DoD people who came over and thought, you need to do this. And everybody was like, yeah, we don't have to do that. So I think that's a part that of DHS's growth and maturation that people aren't aware of. They're not aware that you can't just, you know, say do something and have it done. It has to be more of a collaboration, and the private sector owning so much critical infrastructure and DHS needing to really be that leader in the country, as opposed to kind of a person or an agency that gives orders. So yeah, it's a challenge that I think they are growing and meeting very well. So are there any other last thoughts that you wanted to?
I would just like to say the collaboration piece, I have to pay an ode to the men and women of DHS, because the collaboration is caused because every single one of those people in DHS put their country before themselves, and do it because they care about our homeland. And it is harder to work in DHS than it is in some of the other agencies, but they do it because they're putting country first. And I think that is amazing. And despite what we think about some policy decisions, those people in DHS that are serving our country should be commended.
We completely agree with you. It is truly a thankless job, and sometimes they even get more flack than certainly any other agency. And it's unfortunate because they're patriots. They are protecting the country. They're working to make sure, you know, we know it's annoying you have to throw your water out, but people are trying to blow you up with a water bottle. So, you know, you just got to go with it sometimes. So thank you, Elaine, because you are one of those people. You devoted, you know, most of your career to Homeland Security, and certainly assuring that good governance is walking hand in hand with what the nation needs to be secure. So thank you for that. You are a true national hero and a national treasure, and we're just very glad to have you among us. So thank you, and congratulations to DHS for their 20 years.
Go strong.
Yeah, Team Homeland. Take care. Thank you.